Are you ready?
My coach, Barbara H. Smith. Why did I hire her? Because she's the best.
Barbara H. Smith is a powerhouse. She just walks in the room and grabs your attention, and she does that in a way that just makes you feel loved and like she's paying attention to you. She cares about you, and she wants to see you be your best self.
She was able to dig inside and find the passion that was deep within me.
Barbara's energy is one of the reasons that I had to have her as my coach. I love the way she is real with people.
The reason I felt like I needed a coach was because I have some big goals and I needed to build my confidence. I knew that Barbara could help me do that.
I felt that I could trust her.
I would definitely recommend to get coaching from Barbara H. Smith if you feel like you need to level up your confidence. She would just help you feel like bold, like you can take on the world.
She has really shown me who I am. She has changed my mindset to a place that I know that I am more powerful today than I would have ever been if I had never met Barbara Smith.
Hey, here we go. It's a Thursday, 12 o'clock noon, and it's Eastern time, of course, yet it's broadcast all over Roku, 200 countries. Why are we here? The Empowering You Show is here to showcase business owners, specifically small business owners, and those in the community that are doing great things. And today is no exception. But before I introduce our extra special guest, let me bring you Shawnee, the sensational Smith.
You know, every time you do that, I get so excited. Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy you're here. You know, I can't do the show without you. So we are super duper excited for a number of reasons, but specifically for our guest. She is a wedding planner turned independent consultant, expat, who is based in Greece. She wrote the world's first book on how to plan a wedding in a pandemic, Poise over Panic. She's a serial entrepreneur with a sense of adventure, and her colleagues have described her as scrappy, fearless, and a multi-potentialite. I love that. She's always up to something new and exciting, and she dabbles in projects across many industries while leading a life she loves. Help me bring to the show, Ivy Summer.
Hi there, my name is Ivy Summer, and I'm an MBA, a certified wedding planner, and a diversity and inclusion consultant and strategist. I have experience in a lot of things, but in a nutshell, let me tell you a few highlights. In 2015, I planned and coordinated the Guinness World Record attempt at largest public wedding. In 2016, I introduced the Cannabis Wedding Expo, an annual event, to the state of California. In 2017 and in 2018, I launched America's very first cannabis art museum tours and cannabis yacht tours on San Francisco Bay. In 2019, I released an online wedding planning video series for couples who want to plan their wedding like a pro. In 2020, I wrote and published the world's first book about how to plan a wedding in a pandemic called Poise over Panic. Back in 2019, when I was making wedding planning tools for couples more accessible online, I was just at the beginning of a big pivot stepping into my career as a diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging consultant. The same time that I made that pivot in 2019, I made a huge move from America to Greece, where I've been living ever since. I provide videos about expat resources on my YouTube channel, and that's me in a nutshell. Now I'm ready to live my way into the answers of some of life's biggest questions. I hope I'll see you on the way.
Love that. It's so super cool. Welcome to the show, Ivy.
Thank you so much, Barbara, Shawnee. Thanks so much for having me here. I'm excited to sit and chat with both of you today.
Can I ask you, what time is it in Greece?
It is currently 7 p.m. local time.
Okay, I'm glad we caught you before, got too late. All right.
Well, Shawnee, Ivy and I met online. I was looking for diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging questions, uh, professionals.
Mhm.
And she came across my feed, and I said, she looks like an interesting person. Let me reach out and see if she'll talk to me. So she did. No, I am
Right.
just always in awe of people who connect and why they connect. So tell me, Ivy, why did you say let's meet?
You know, Barbara, you never know what could come out of a small conversation, just a simple invitation to talk. You never know what will unfold from there. And so I'm always eager to chat with whoever is willing to have a conversation of any kind, because you don't know what it could blossom into. You could be talking about, some a title, for example, a
Mhm.
job title or an industry, like you cited just now. And it could just turn into a lifelong friendship, exchanging referrals about, I'm having a big life event. I maybe want to travel to Greece. And could you tell me a little bit about this, that, or the other thing? And, I might have questions about coaching and speaking. And,
Right.
these are all in the realms of things that have happened in the past. And I just don't ever want to pass up an opportunity to have an unexpectedly amazing conversation with someone. And I'm really glad that I picked up when you called on me.
I'm glad she did too, because speaking of like, what if we want to travel to Greece, did you say that we could just stay with you? Or did I mishear that?
Well, it's funny you bring that up, Shawnee, because it is true, because I often open my room. I have a guest bedroom here in Thessaloniki, the second largest city to Athens. It's about a 5-6 hour drive north. And I always offer to anyone who wants to stay, you're welcome to stay. Of course, we'll talk about appropriate COVID protocol, safety protocol, whatnot. But I come from a background of living with other people in intentional communities. So that is right up my alley. And I'm glad you brought it up.
No, I'm glad I brought it up. How about you?
Shawnee's really serious about that.
I'm
Trying to tell you right
serious.
now.
All right.
So you say expat. What does that mean for those of us out here that may not know? And what does that mean for you going forward as far as citizenship? Which country?
Yeah. So expat is short for the word expatriate. And it means living in a country outside of your home country. For me, it's America. And so it's interesting, this word expat, or I'm a foreigner here. I am an immigrant here, because part of the reasons why we moved here is for economic reasons, which makes me an immigrant as well. So interesting little fact behind the different types of words we use to describe people in this situation. But yeah,
Why is it economic though?
it's a lot cheaper than living in San Francisco. So that's one.
I
Yeah,
imagine so.
Almost anywhere is cheaper than living in San Francisco.
that's true too. And the quality of life in Greece is so good. It is part of that blue zone that you might have heard about, where people live to be over 100 years old. And the blue zones across the world are often in the Mediterranean. There is a blue zone in Japan, I believe, and other parts of the world. But it comes from the diet that people have here, the quality of life, sense of community has a lot to do with indicating, how long we live, and all of these other factors that make Greece a great place to live. But to answer your question about path to citizenship, I did get my permanent residency a couple of years after moving here. And so that makes me eligible for citizenship in somewhere between 5 and 7 years, depending on whether I have children, which could expedite the process.
So are we expediting, or are we just waiting for 7 years?
We are not expediting right now. You never know what the future holds. Since 2020, it's so hard to to predict what your life could look like even
Yeah.
a few months down the road.
Okay.
So for not right now, we'll say not yet.
It's not out of the off the horizon, but we're just not doing it right now.
Right.
So, Shawnee, you had some questions you want to ask.
I do have some questions I want to ask, but after watching your reel again, I want to know some more about this cannabis wedding. Can you talk to me about that?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
So cannabis weddings started to become a thing in the 2010s, early 2010s, when Colorado legalized recreational use of cannabis.
Okay.
And slowly, different states started to legalize recreational cannabis. California was one of those states. And Colorado had this kind of golden version of a blueprint of what a state could do on a county by county level when it comes to determining what those restrictions are for recreational cannabis use. And in the world of hospitality management and tourism, it makes a very perfect intersection for destination weddings. It brings a whole new definition to destination weddings. And incorporating cannabis into a wedding in ways that we just never thought of before. For example, incorporating little nuggets of the plant into a floral bouquet, kind of letting them drape like grapes from a vine on pergola or things like this in the floral arrangement. So there are certain florists who specialize in that now. Bud tending, which is like bartending. Some of the restrictions that have been laid out, especially in the beginning in Colorado and California's state laws, where you could have a bar and you could have a bud bar about 150 feet away from one another. So there were certain restrictions, and they change county by county. Very interesting for venues who are that are located in a city, but also within different county lines that have restrictions that kind of clash. So there are some obstacles that we've yet to overcome in that respect, but couples have successfully pulled off cannabis weddings in some ways. It's very fascinating.
I'll say.
It sounds like a lot of fun. So when I heard it, I just imagined, I don't know, maybe you just have edibles on the table, or I don't know.
That too. Yeah. There are many, many different ways in incorporating it into catering in a way that is not psychoactive, just for the flavor. There are ways that you can incorporate it that are one of the most amazing ways I've seen is taking a keg originally for beer, but having it become a vacuum and use it to kind of suck in a joint or a blunt and fill the keg with smoke, freeze that keg, making that smoke very, very heavy so you can draft it to come out and lay heavily on top of some wine that you can then pair your cannabis with. And if you're tasting wine correctly, you're smelling it just a little bit as you're tasting it in your mouth. And so you're naturally inhaling that smoke, which is nice and cool and pairs really well with your wine. It's very visually appealing, and it's definitely the most creative way I've seen cannabis incorporated into it.
I am blown away. No pun intended.
I'm sitting here speechless. What?
Yeah.
Now you're drinking wine and getting high at the same time. What?
Yeah, it's
I would
fascinating.
imagine you probably had to be high to even come up with this idea. Because what would even make you think that that's a thing?
Johnny.
Freezing the smoke? How? I mean,
possibilities are endless. I think people with a gastronomical background and just food science have come up with ways to present different cannabis options in a very enticing way. And this is only one of them. Possibilities are endless.
Who knew you would be on the Empowering You show talking about how to pair cannabis and wine? Oh my God.
Not me.
I'm just floored. I am floored by such discussions. Well, so this book that talks about poise over panic was created as a result of the pandemic.
Yes, it was. Yes, I didn't know how to be a wedding planner in a pandemic world where that job title just
It
no
shriveled.
one knew what to do with that.
Yeah, it just it vanished for the most part for a lot of people.
Right.
And so
And
you turned it around. You pivoted, and tell us how you did that.
I needed to find a way to continue to provide value with my expertise. I just wasn't ready to just stop and say, okay, well, that's my life's work. When I was 12 years old, I watched The Wedding Planner featuring J-Lo. And it's so funny because it was set in San Francisco, actually. And I thought, I definitely want to be her. And I thought, San Francisco is pretty cool, but it would be amazing to be a wedding planner in a different country and work with like fireworks and, amazing settings. And I finally did get that job 10 years after I set out to become the J-Lo of the
You totally
Mediterranean.
manifested it. Totally.
Yeah. And so I did start working at a wonderful wedding planning company in downtown Athens, Greece on March 9th, 2020. So 4 days later, we found out that we should probably take our work home and maybe we'll come back after the weekend. And, that wasn't a job that could go any further. That was a company that worked in destination, celebrity, and luxury weddings. And that's just, I don't care if you can afford a helicopter for your wedding. You're not flying during a pandemic. That's for sure. You're definitely not getting married. So I said, what is something that I can do right now that provides value in this world around wedding planning? And in the first 40 days of the pandemic lockdown, I wrote and published that book, Poise Over Panic, How to Plan a Wedding in a Pandemic, and got it out there as fast as I possibly could and made
And how did you do it so fast?
I wrote every day. I mean, what were we all doing in the first few days? Basically keeping our eyes glued to any updates about, on the screens. And so I said, I'm already looking at a screen, so I might as well type something.
That's interesting though, because for me, like when everything first started closing down, I still kind of felt like it was just temporary, so I spent those first couple weeks treating it like a snow day. I mean, I was cooking all kinds of like outrageously fat stuff and eating and just enjoying the time. Like, hey, who knew? We were talking about 2022 and we're still talking about COVID-19, but for you to have the mindset to even start just working right away. I mean, many people were just kind of like, it should be over next month,
Neither one of those were my testimony. My testimony, because I was a total face-to-face presenter.
Okay.
Total face-to-face.
Right.
I went into panic mode. So I didn't poise. I panicked. And for 2 whole weeks, I buried my head in the sand. I didn't go on social media. I didn't watch this craziness on television. I literally did an ostrich. I was panicked. That's what happened to me. And I suspect that many people fall in all 3 of our categories.
Absolutely.
But it was like an epiphany. God said, your background is engineering, computer networks. Reverse engineer what you need to do. You've been online. You've been doing Zoom sessions before the pandemic. So what are you doing? And I woke up one day going, they need training online and they don't know how to do it. Guess who they can hire? This girl. And that's what started my reemergence to life, because I was like, get the paddles, poof. So I love that you didn't panic. I mean, that was brilliant, Ivy.
Well, I think what happened was I froze. Let's like fight or flight or freeze. I think there might be a fourth one there too. But I froze and
That's what I did.
yeah. And I just, waiting and seeing what might happen. So, I wasn't immediately, I know what to do. I'm going to do this. I wish I could say that. But it took me about 2 or 3 days of thinking just what Shawnee said, like, oh, it's probably, after the weekend, okay, we're working from home on Monday. Okay, well, maybe by Friday we'll probably, you're just it's not real yet. And then when it was real, I stocked up like I was planning for the apocalypse. So I had just loads of food and dried goods, and I said, okay, well, while I'm here, now that I'm inside, I didn't even know I was, it was normal to walk outside. I thought that when they said lockdown, I was like, okay. And I like didn't see the sun. So I said, okay, yeah. So I said, I got to write. I got to do something.
Well, that's good, because that's not my testimony. My testimony was I locked down, I shut the door, and then I have, bless her, my mother, who is and was a CNN fanatic. And so she's watching and giving me updates. I'm like, I don't want to know. She's giving me updates. That you can't go out because, it's in the air and I'm like, you know what? I'm already depressed. I don't need you helping, adding more layers.
It was a lot.
So you have a spouse who helped in some way to get your book done, published, ISBN.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. So my husband has written several books, at least a dozen books. And in the process of getting, editing those and getting them published, he said, I need to just create my own publishing house so that I can write a book, immediately publish it, set it up with an ISBN number so it can be eligible for public libraries, to be stocked in libraries across the US and Canada. Mm-hmm. And so I said, okay, this is my opportunity. I have someone with the expertise sitting right next to me who can, help me set this up. It's my first ever book. And before I even wrote the book, maybe a couple years before, I said out loud, I could never be an author. That would just whole book. Oh my gosh. I never saw myself being an author. No, I just didn't. And
it's very interesting that you actually said those words out of your mouth.
Oh yeah. It just seemed intimidating. And interestingly, reading wasn't one of my top hobbies in the past 5 months. So basically this year, I have really dove into reading. I read every day. I love reading books. It's my new favorite hobby. But yeah, just never say never.
Yeah. And that's so good, because, Shawnee, I'm thinking maybe that was the intimidation for ladies that are coming up in the Empowering You. It's your time book. Mm-hmm. It's just too intimidating to say, I'm going to write a book.
Right.
Now, it's easy to write it. It is easy to write a book. Editing is a different story, to getting it ready for the world. And for me, because COVID measures and safety protocols were changing all over the world, I had to update my ebook on Kindle. I had to update the book so that it matched what the real world was reflecting in terms of what to do about COVID and social events. But writing the book is the easiest part. That's the good news.
Well, getting it out there.
Yeah. It's the other part.
So how many times have you been back to the States since the pandemic?
I came back in March this year. That was my first time back. So since January 26th, 2020, I was on one of the last cruises ever to the Bahamas from Miami, Florida. And the first time I went back was this past March, just a few months ago.
And where'd you go?
I went home to Columbus, Ohio to visit with my family, my grandmother specifically, so I could spend every day with her for 30 days. She was going through her 5th year of dementia. And so I said, I think I'd rather spend time with her than have to go back for a reason because of being without her, for example. So yeah, it was the best decision I made this year.
Good. I mean, that's something that's really dear to me and near to my heart because my mother had dementia as well. She actually just passed in May. So I totally understand how important it is to spend the time with them while they're here, even though it's different, it's a different situation.
Yeah.
So talk some more and the dementia of, like, my father also passed away 2 years ago in the height of the pandemic. So talk some more about, if you came back in March, protocols for COVID were relaxed a bit. Were there any things that were different?
Oh yeah. So first of all, seeing the US from outside of the US for these past few years, these past couple of years with COVID, I was pretty scared to come back.
Talk about that.
Well, the reason why I came back was to visit my grandmother. She is living in an assisted living home, and it was going to be my responsibility to not have COVID so that I could do what I came to do, which is visit with her, and then get back here. So the top priority was don't get COVID so that it doesn't affect the reason why I come and coming back. And so I just based on what I've seen on the news and on social media, I thought for sure I'd be beat up just going into a Walmart for having my mask on. Like that was what I thought was going on. Yeah. So, yeah. And everyone was at the time wearing masks in all of the grocery stores, all of the public transportation, and even still in Greece, wearing it on buses and metros and stuff like that. That's required. So going into a coffee shop and seeing that people weren't wearing masks, I don't know if you know about this study that was done, but subject would walk into kind of a doctor's office. So you had that waiting room area, and then a bell would ring, and then everyone would stand up. But the subject would kind of look around and be like, why does everyone stand when a bell rings? And after a certain number of times, that person starts to stand up because it's what everybody else is doing. And so I kind of felt that's just a human tendency that we have. If everybody else is doing it, you kind of just do it. You don't know why people are standing up when a bell rings. Why would you do that? But no questions asked. I'm going to do it. So I just felt that pull to take off my mask because I saw other people weren't. And when you spend time with people, it doesn't matter who they are. And you say, okay, we're going to go on a road trip, for example, and we'll wear masks in the car and be careful when we go inside. And after a certain period of time of hanging out with people, you kind of, as a human, have this sense of comfort around them. So you kind of think it's okay to kind of take your mask off. It's just how we are as social beings. And spending time with one another is one factor that plays into how much we trust one another. And I just felt like that. I was like, okay, well, maybe I can take my mask off. And I just had to remember, you only came here to do this one thing. Yes. And you have to make sure you're COVID free so you can continue to fulfill on what you came here to do. So it was very difficult. Yeah, it was difficult.
Yeah, well, a lot of people aren't wearing masks here in the States. And yeah, I choose I pick and choose. When I go to get my nails done, I'm this close to a person, I wear my mask. When I'm in an open air where there's lots, of space between, I might not. So I pick and choose. But we're at the top of the hour. We've been talking for 30 minutes. Do you believe this? And we want to take a commercial break, but we don't want you to go anywhere. We have a phenomenal guest in Ivy Summer. Love your name. And we're going to be right back. Don't you go away and miss a thing. I am a child of the Most High God. He has gifted me in ways that I could not even imagine and didn't know.
There was a time when I didn't know who I was. I listened to other people tell me who I should be, what I should do. I listened to people telling me that I should be a boutique owner, that I should be a construction manager, that I should be a laborer. Have you ever felt like you should do something else, be something else, go somewhere else, be wherever you wanted to be, and you felt like you were in a box? Anybody in the room? And you couldn't get out. Anybody in the room? And you kept trying to go and you couldn't get out. Anybody in the room? But let me tell you, you need to rock the box. Rock the box.
I am engaging, inspiring, and empowering. I would give you everything I know. Just by touching you, if I could, by osmosis, give you every single thing I've learned, I've gone through, I know I would. We know that's not possible, but as it is possible, I love to share information with people.
Some of you out there, people have told you that you can't be, you can't have, you can't do. But I will tell you, like Kingston said, you can, you must, and you will. If it's to be, it's going to be me. You got to say it. If it's to be, it's going to be. If it's to be, it's going to be. If it's to be, it's going to be.
Barbara is because she believed what her mama said about her and not what other people told her.
Every day you wake up, when you're in a situation, it's your choice whether it's an advantage or the disadvantage.
She gained her confidence and her life, and now she is a testimony.
If I can help you elevate yourself, then I feel like I'm elevating my own self as well. What you know and I know together can change the world.
You know that's my thing.
Rock the box. I'm so excited. Tomorrow is the day. I take a 16-hour flight to go back to Africa. They're coming to America. I'm coming to Africa. Leaving tomorrow. Cool. Super, super excited. We are treated like royalty every single time I've been. I made the commitment in my own mind to my own self, much like you did, to be a wedding planner, Ivy, that I was going to go to Africa. I've wanted to go since I'm 3, and I've never had the opportunity. And in the past 12 months, leaving tomorrow, this time will be the 4th in 12 months. So I'm excited.
So exciting.
I'm excited too, but then I'm like, oh, I gotta adjust to your time change because how am I going to talk to you?
That 8-hour difference is something else, I tell you.
Right.
I have to adjust my brain, and it's easier though. I don't know if you found that, Ivy, coming to your country, coming to Greece, than it is coming back to America as far as time zone changes and jet lag and all of that. What's your take?
You know, I did think that it was easier going west, but
Yeah.
on the last trip that I took, I used an app. Oh my gosh, I don't know if I remember the name. But it helps combat jet lag, and even astronauts from NASA use it to come
I need
back
that
to
app.
Earth.
I need to know what that is, because when I come back, it's like almost a week before I'm back in sync with time.
Yeah.
Like I'm up at 3 a.m. Never on a regular basis. But when I come back from Africa, I'm up at 3 a.m. I'm at 10 o'clock at night, go to bed, go to sleep.
Right.
But then I'm up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh wow.
But when I get back, I'm up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. It doesn't work well. I need you to really, after the show, think about what that app is so you can send it to me.
Okay. I will.
No, you talked about like how you're treated in Africa. How do you feel like the climate is there? I mean, obviously, since you stayed, you like it. But what would be the differences? How are you treated differently as a person of color in Greece?
You know, I'm gonna preface this with, you know, I'm a lighter skinned Black woman, and I also speak the language.
Oh,
and
okay.
So those two things may factor in to how I'm treated based on, you know, wherever I'm at, whether I'm in a touristy area or whether I'm in, you know, a village or backcountry. Once the signs don't say any English things anymore, you know, you're out there.
Okay.
So, I would say that Greeks are some of the most generous peoples on earth. They will give you the shirt off their back as long as it comes with their opinion. So you are going to have to deal with that no matter what.
No, you got to give me an example of that. Like, talk to me about what that looks like.
I mean, you might park somewhere and say, I'm just going to park here for a minute because I need to ask this cafe for directions or just get a water or something. And someone who is walking right past your car will say, you can't park there. You can't park there. It's not allowed. And you're like, look, I don't care. I'm just going to get some water. I'm just going to do whatever. And they're like, okay. So they'll leave you alone, but they're going to speak their mind.
Okay.
And maybe you might be walking down the street and someone from the balcony, because there's always old ladies on balconies here. Hey, you can't park there. And then the guy who just told, yeah, I told him he can't park there. You told him he can't park there. He can't park there. I told him. He said he doesn't care. Okay. So, you know, everybody's got it's like, you know, they'll talk to you like they talk to their own family members. And you either listen or you don't. And they are the same. They may not take your opinion or your advice at all, but you know, you have the right to share that. And so that part's interesting. They are very talkative. And one thing I'll say that may be interesting to you is that there's so many similarities between Black culture and Greek culture. So many.
Wow.
I mean, I've asked my family the same questions I've asked my husband's family, who's Greek. And I will say, you know, how do you get therapy? Where do I find a therapist here in this country? And you know what you need? Jesus. That's what you need. And I'm like, well, that's what my family says. You know, I mean, unbelievable. You know, they've got their own dances. It's all footwork. They're always trying to one up each other at social events. Oh, watch this, you know, and, you know, share a little family gossip here and there, laughing, speaking loud, you know, making jokes. It feels like home and like some really good home cooking. So I'm just like, maybe I should write a book about this, Black experiences and Greek experiences, how similar they are, because I don't think there's a book about that yet either.
Well, let me ask you this question. You mentioned the disparity between a lighter skin colored Black woman and a skin colored woman who is darker like myself.
Mhm.
You also are on in the DEIMB industry.
I am.
What are you doing there that's different from here in that space?
You know, I did think about being an advisor, consultant for Greek companies, for European companies. And I came to the conclusion after learning about the culture here and the different historical context of European countries that in contrast with the US, that I just don't have that historical background. Just like DEI and B consultants do not understand from firsthand experience racism in the US, specifically Black people. There are a race of people here called the Romani people, Roma people, otherwise known as gypsies, which is now considered a derogatory term. The Greek word for Egyptians is Aegyptos. And so gypsy came from that word for Egyptians. But that's not politically correct because that group of people did not come from Egypt. Romani, you know, that's not correct. They didn't come from Romania or Roma, Rome. And so very interesting. I mean, I'm learning a lot about racism in Greece towards this group of people. And there are millions of these people in and across Europe. There's only about 1 million in the US. And so you don't really experience that. And even if you did meet someone who is of that, who is a descendant of Romani people, I'll say, they may not feel psychologically safe enough to admit it.
Wow.
But there does exist a couple of documentaries made by the same director and producer about this culture. It is very difficult to find any, you know, they keep their culture very much within their people.
Right.
You don't see it on a documentary on YouTube or anything like that. It's very difficult to find. But one documentary is called In Search of the Fourth Nail, which I find very interesting. Yes. Now, I'm not sure if it has, it sounds like it might have to do with a legend that I heard, which is these people took one of the nails from the cross of Jesus Christ and took it from his foot. And that has to do with, you know, their culture. I don't know much more about it, but that just goes to show I have so much more to learn. And so I don't think that it's appropriate for me to be teaching and preaching about that kind of thing here. But I have had experiences myself when it comes to racism and seeing discrimination against these people here, despite the fact that the Greek government provides financial incentives for these people to get jobs, to enroll their children into schools, but they don't want to. They want to be on their own. And it's like, so how do you respect that, but then say, but we want you to, you know, be part of our economy and part of our society socially. And so if you're rejecting that, how do we kind of walk that line? And what we deem socially acceptable and what you deem socially acceptable is different. For example, begging for food, for money on the streets. If we just want to kind of bring you in so that you have the ability to earn that, this and more makes racism in the US look solvable.
Yeah.
So
wow. Okay.
It's a
Well,
lot.
speaking of racism in the US, there is a new standard, the DEI standard from ISO 30415. We talked about it briefly on our conversation. And I'm walking through the certification process right now as we speak. And so what I hear and understand based on what you said is very, I don't want to say confusing. I want to say makes me more aware.
Mhm.
But what has been cited is that European countries are more apt to adopt the ISO standards because ISO is a global organization that many countries outside of the United States do follow. But the United States is usually behind the times on getting those ISO standards employed. I'm wondering if they don't want, this particular group of people don't want to integrate, and that's probably what we should have did, don't want to integrate. Did I say that out loud? Yeah. Then why should they be made to?
Right.
If their culture is self-sustaining, much like the Amish.
I was just about to say that.
That's a great example. Great.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Why do you want to divide and conquer?
Mm-hmm.
Why
So
would
yeah,
you?
I think it's a very, very complex answer to that. And you're going to get different answers to that question, right? Because some people have some economic reasons,
You think?
financial, right? Institutional reasons, some to do with power, and
Absolutely.
right.
Right.
And their vision of what Greece could be, of what Europe could be, if just everyone would just behave,
But just
and
conform.
so, right. So
Conforming didn't do the African American race well, conforming, because it didn't matter. It still doesn't matter. I'm getting ready to go off on a tangent, so let me not.
We bring you back down. Come on, bring it back. Come back.
Rein that in. But I'm really interested in Greek culture, especially because I now have a source to ask questions of, and
And a place to stay.
Let's not forget that.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting looking at history, which I was never good at until here recently, the last 5 years or so. I know our history, African American history. Many people will not admit to some of how great we were, are, not were, are, and still are. But the Greek history is so also rich that it's interesting to hear that they still do have those disparities and differences in the culture. It's very interesting. Wow.
For sure.
So you are not doing your DEI stuff in the country of Greece right now.
I'm specifically focused on American companies. That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
That's good. That's good to know. And did you happen to take a look at that 3045 ISO standard?
I did. I still have it. I still have that tab open. Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are people need to know about this. Much like there wasn't really a standard a couple decades ago, even now, for wedding planning, for example. If I said I'm a certified wedding planner, even certified, I just need a wedding planner, whatever. It's creating that standard so that people recognize, okay, she knows what she's doing.
Right.
She's got a standard she needs to meet that the world is holding on a global level. And so this is something that, people should know about. People need to know about. And I feel a particular pull towards getting myself affiliated with that and getting certified. Why? Well, I've written my first peer-reviewed journal article on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging.
Congratulations.
Especially in STEM. So I'm a co-author on that in the Journal of the Institute of Science and Engineer Educators.
You didn't put that in the feed. We need
I
to
know. I'm sorry.
Wait, and
I
you notice that
forgot.
she said she's a co-author in that, but yet a
Yeah.
couple years ago she said there's no way.
Yeah,
Right.
I did say
There's no
that.
way I would be an author.
So if we want to know more about you, where do we find you?
Well, you can find me on Instagram talking about a load of these things, all the things that I'm up to. And I'm at Lunch with Ivy. So the at handle Lunch with Ivy. And you can also find me on YouTube. So if you search Ivy Summer, or look right there on the banner below, you'll find me right there, Ivy
Thanks,
Summer
Mark.
and Grace.
Mark makes sure that we get our banners rolling across. He also says there's some on some other shows. There's been a conversation about the rise in nationalism throughout the world. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's a version of that in Greece. I think that there's a version of that in all countries. We've seen it over here in Europe, in Poland, in racism and nationalism across France, Greece for sure. They call it the Golden Dawn is the right-leaning group here. And very interestingly,
or D-O-N?
yep,
Okay.
DAWN, Golden Dawn. And I don't see it so much in Thessaloniki. I have seen it in Athens when I lived there for my very brief stint as a wedding planner there. Thessaloniki is a sister city to San Francisco. Surprisingly, I didn't know that, but it is. And San Francisco has two sister cities, Mexico City and Thessaloniki in Greece. And so it's fairly liberal here, but Greece as a country is pretty conservative, I'd say.
Really?
Church and state are like best friends. And so you don't have to believe in religion, but in public schools, you do have to learn about it.
Okay.
Oh yeah. And so more about that on my YouTube channel about the public and private schools. But yeah, like I don't notice that there is any physical threat to my safety when I'm out and about. But there are protests. Like this is the birthplace of democracy, right? And so protests are one of those things in Greece that happen pretty often, including on university campuses as well. Police are not allowed on campuses here in Greece. That is not allowed. No. And if the government tries to push that, the people push back. And that has been the history of Greece. And so they really protect, right? And if you see people who are, spray painting, whatever they might spray paint, there's often a lot of Antifa graffiti everywhere. So you don't see too much of Golden Dawn, perhaps, unless you're in Athens or this nationalist theology. But people will spray paint, the beautiful marble and things like that all over the statues on campus. And it's the idea that students are taught how to think, not what to think. And if they want to trash their campus, they will, but they have to clean it up too. And so you'll see that. And that's the, kind of the climate here. Again, Greek people will speak their minds. So if there are nationalists around and you have a lot of people who disagree with that, they will make it known. Often it doesn't turn as violent as you might see in the US or what I see on my feed from over here. But it absolutely exists. Yeah, it's a good conversation to keep alive.
Wow. Blown away. You've given us so much. Do you see yourself retiring in Greece, or do you see yourself maybe floating to another country?
That's a great question. I'm not quite sure. I will be in Greece, I think, for retirement. I really love living here in Greece. I love living in Italy as well. So maybe
What do you
one
love
of
about it? What is so great that you love it? I can tell you what I love about Africa, but
yeah.
what do you love?
What's so weird is like I think it's like a rule that you have to have fun all the time if you're a Greek person. So they're just always laughing. They never take life too seriously, ever.
I love that.
And
That is
it's
great.
just it's like in their spirit. There's something there. And so I'm like, how's your day? Someone says this, that, and the other thing happened, and they're all like terrible. And they're like, yeah, but life goes on. And I'm just like, that's such an interesting perspective.
Right.
And yeah, it's small in the grand scheme of things. And that's just how they are as a people. And I really enjoy that because I think that kind of attitude takes you so far.
That's why they live longer.
Sure.
They're not stressing out.
Yeah, let it roll off.
Yeah.
So very island-like.
Yeah.
Yes, that's very island-like. They don't worry about anything. They ain't on time for nothing. They ain't rushing nowhere.
They are not rushing anywhere.
Yeah.
They're not rushing?
No.
Okay.
If you ask a question on the street, like, where can I find this thing? That any random person, they will stop and talk to you. And you're like, do you have a job? Like, why are we? And they'll get into this big conversation, tell you about their family. And it's like, does anyone have anywhere to go?
We in America are always hurrying to go somewhere or to do something.
Right.
Yeah.
The stress in and of itself, right?
It took me about 1.5 years after moving here to break that part of me and to just be like, I need to slow down. Yeah.
It took me that long moving from New York to Virginia. Okay. I said, if these people go any slower, they'll be comatose.
And you're not even a slow part of it, Virginia. That's the funny part.
It was painfully slow when I came here. Like, anyway, we're not talking about that.
Oh my gosh, we had such fun with you that it is 12:57.
I know, but Mark has another question. Mark wants to know how much Greek history, like Socrates, Aristotle, and others, do the Greeks honor.
I mean, to be honest, I don't get into those conversations so much. Like honor them. I mean, of course, they come up in conversation, and they may reference the Socratic method, or I live just down the street from Aristoteles Square. So Aristotle Square is where many protests happen. And so, you'll see kind of that parallelism, that symbolism in these places named after these historic figures. But I'd say that they live their honor towards these figures for sure.
It sounds like that. I love that you love living in Greece, and it's refreshing to hear someone who's lived in the United States say that living outside of this country can be, and for you is, a reality that is enjoyable. Because I'm looking for another passport myself. Just saying.
I mean, I think many people feel like that, but fear is very paralyzing. It's very, what is it going to be like? I mean, how well did you speak the language before you moved?
I did not speak it very well. It was very, very basic. And now I'm, I would say, intermediate. Okay. A lot of Greeks think that I'm fluent based on my accent. They say that my accent is like I grew up here. So I spoke very basic, but that's all you need. And just trying, it communicates so much, despite how much you think
anywhere
you can communicate. Yeah, they'll appreciate your trying.
Anywhere in the world. It's amazing if you at least try. I mean, because my Spanish is pretty choppy now, but it used to be pretty good. But when I have contractors that speak Spanish and I speak Spanish to them about construction, they are just elated, shocked, but elated that you at least tried. They'll correct you if you say it wrong, but they at least appreciate, like you said, they appreciate you at least trying. We have some stuff coming up. We got, oh my God, look what time it is. The Sisters Empowering You Sisters to Advance Retreat is coming up April 9, 10, 11, and 12.
October.
You want to be there because we are going to excavate all of the uncertainty and elevate your self-confidence in a super duper kind of way. We're going to teach you how to treat you at this event. Please go to bit.ly/capital S for Sisters, capital E for Empowered, and check us out. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh my God, Ivy, this has been an amazing hour. Shadi, what's your last shout out?
I just want to thank you so much again. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, please contact me at support@barbarahsmith.com. Again, thank you, Ivy, for enlightening us on what it's like to be a fabulous, what'd you call yourself? Scrappy expat. So thank you again, and thank you all for watching.
Thank you for watching. You know what time it is. It's time for you to step into your greatness because the world is waiting for you. That's our time. See you next week.
Stay tuned for the Breakthrough Project coming right up next with Vernee Taylor.
Vernee Taylor's up next. Please don't go anywhere.
Thank you.
Engage, inspire, empower. That's what I help you do as a celebrity, speaker, trainer, and coach. Hi, I'm Barbara H. Smith, known as the Masterful Presenter. I am the one that can help you dig deep inside your passions and deep inside your life to get you to the place you always dreamed.
I had the pleasure of hearing Miss Barbara Holmes Smith speak today, and just from her speaking to me today, I have realized that I need to have personalized my alter ego and be able to put myself out there a lot more.
I help through speaking techniques, teaching you how to use your words and your body language to inspire people to come up higher.
Today's presentation with Ms. Barbara was just outstanding. She has really helped me with her personality, with her being so genuine and passionate about what she believes in and helping to coach, train. Her sense of humor, her energy is just incredible.
How do I do that? By coaching and speaking and training. I help you with whatever it is that you want to do next. What is your next? Are you ready to take your life, your career to the next level? I can get you there. Contact me at www.barbarahsmith.com.